Then Larys reads him the riot act, telling Aegon he's a terrible king and he's a terrible man and he never takes his boots off when Larys is around. Like, come on! Let me see those twinkle toes. What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to HateWatchers. Today we push on ahead with our weekly reviews of House of the Dragon with episode 5 entitled Unbowed and Unbent. Let's get right into the breakdown, which means spoilers ahead. We open up in the Riverlands, where a destroyed bridge is keeping Oscar Tully from the grilled cheeses awaiting him on the other side. He demands a new bridge be erected, and then he giggles at the word erected. Hand of the King, Criston Cole, lends a helping hand to the Rivermen's camp, offering them some heat on this cold night, and before long, everyone is having a gay old time at an impromptu Burning Man festival. At Harrenhal, these men are looking for a Halloween party, and they're not sure they have the right address, but Alice Rivers makes it very clear they're in the right place. Upstairs, Aemond finally awakens after his period has subsided, just in time for the party, but he's still hormonal, freaking out one minute and in need of cuddling the next. In King's Landing, Maester Orwyle drags his chains down the stairs, where he delivers some Plan B tea for Helaena. Then he waits there awkwardly for a tip, but Alicent just shakes his hand instead. Alicent tries to get Helaena to drink the tea, saying, "Here comes the airplane. I know it doesn't taste good, sweetheart, but you need to take your medicine." But Helaena is stubborn. Elsewhere in the castle, this old hag is annoying Rhaenyra, so she and her Queensguard hit the lady with the double tap.
What could anyone possibly want?
In class, Rhaenyra is making the two most absent students do an oral report, while the rest of the class gossips.
Soon enough.
When it's clear they're going to fail their group project, Adam throws Baela under the bus, saying she didn't contribute, and in response, the Lady Baela doth protest too much. Rhaenyra can't even rule over this small class, and when Daemon backtalks her, he gets sent to the principal's office. Then she rushes out to beat him there because she's also the principal. And she sucks at that too. But she's clearly a busy woman, going for the worst ruler, worst teacher, worst principal, and now worst mother when she refuses to visit her young son that's asking for her. Aegon and Larys are lost after leaving Dead Dragon Funland, and when Aegon stops to pee, it comes out the wrong end, and Larys eagerly waits downwind. Hearing rumors about the Plan B tea, Mysaria asks Alicent who it's for, and Alicent says it's for everyone, as she drinks deeply, hoping she can abort this show. Cole and Gwayne are playing army men in the forest, with their faces painted up like a couple of real dandies. But then their horses all fall to some caltrops hidden among the forest floor, and Cole tries to pry it out of his horse's hoof and misses horribly. Alicent's tummy hurts, when the maid comes in and gives her a dirty look, and Alicent wonders if it's because she's Jewish. Daemon is getting some much-needed boy time, but it gets interrupted by some gold cloaks who chose to selfishly get murdered on his day off. Ormond's dirty joke ghostwriter sends his latest concoction to Tumbleton, a truly heinous creation involving Rhaenyra, Ulf, a jackass, and a honeycomb that Ormond intends to unleash later. Then Ormond Reynolds makes it weird after hearing that one of Darren's pet peeves is people with dry hands.
Dry, did you say?
Ormond gives his version of history lessons while moving around pieces of the diorama that Darren meticulously set up, forcing Darren to move the pieces back each time, ending up with them wrestling and the board getting cleared. Ormond pays Darren for the damages, but he can tell it's a cheap counterfeit, as Darren asks why he put an Oompa Loompa on a coin, but Ormond says, "No, it's you. I drew it myself." Helaena won't let her youngest, Jaehaera, touch Mommy's latest baby daddy. And Alicent interrupts, making her own push for Worst Mother of the Year, suggesting the two of them make a great escape and leave Jaehaera behind. While looking for Vhagar, Baela spills her emotions over Jace dying about 3 episodes too late for it to be relevant, and Adam keeps trying to slide into her DMs, her Deepwood Mott's, know what I'm saying? Aemond is just about done with his gay vampire costume for the Halloween party, and Alice thinks he's pulling it off great. Aegon is taking a nap when Larys wakes him up from it, and Aegon is not happy about it. And then Larys tells him he caught Aegon self-flagellating last night when he thought Larys was asleep. Then Larys reads him the riot act, telling Aegon he's a terrible king and he's a terrible man and he never takes his boots off when Larys is around. Like, come on! Let me see those twinkle toes. Rhaenyra is so damn flustered with ruling that she has to retreat to her scented candles. Then she swallows her pride long enough to say the only sensible thing to come out of her mouth since season 1.
Separ. Krinkondan.
Aegon makes peace, saying he'll take his boots off for some food, a request Larys was eagerly prepared for when they get interrupted by Tywin Lannister. With nothing better to do, Alicent and Helaena pick up some part-time work as candy stripers, but Mysaria fires them before they make their first shift. Alicent is trying to negotiate with the White Worm when Helaena says she has to go poopy.
I want to go out.
The window will have to do.
Mysaria takes Alicent's offer into consideration, as Helaena at least gets a conjugal visit. And down the hall, Rhaenyra ponders the irony of having a child named Joffrey Epstein. Cole and Gwayne are still trudging on, thinking playing army men is not so fun anymore. Some vampire hunters traipse into Harrenhal, and Alice knows she needs to make sure they don't see Aemond, but they appear more than happy to settle for her instead. The vampire leaps from the shadows though, saving Alice and finding some fresh blood to incorporate into his costume. The Lannister Lord tells Larys that it's ironic his name is Thailand because he just spent a lot of time overseas with a ladyboy. Then Aegon is slacking on the job when his boss surprises him with the Employee of the Month crown, but Aegon makes it clear he'd rather have some restructuring at the top. The Gold Cloaks are down in the dumps, so Daemon makes a rousing speech telling them to find a better work-life balance, encouraging them to indulge in their hobbies, be creative. Cole leads his men out of the bush, only to find that now his bridge to grilled cheese is no more. Daemon tries his hand at eye surgery, but it's not for him, so he makes a pivot to barber. And Daemon is surprised to get a tip for his services, but it's a counterfeit that looks like it came from the Willy Wonka Chocolate Factory gift shop. On the forest moon of Endor, Gwayne tells Cole he's tired of playing army men, and he just wants to make s'mores. Daemon pops into Rhaenyra's office to pay his taxes with this totally legit money. Cole tries to inspire the other boys to keep playing, but Gwayne's done playing, saying his mom won't let him sleep over, even though he clearly has his sleeping bag. Back in King's Landing, Helaena finds a secret passage that takes 2 women to open, but they end up getting trapped in there, so they wisely drop their lantern, hoping the noise will let someone know they're stuck. And Daemon finds the Gold Cloaks indulging their creativity a little too much, as they remain super committed to this performance art show as the episode comes to an end. And now, we've reached that point in the video where we have to decide if this episode was a great watch or a hate watch. And we have our third hate watch in a row. Like the 2 before it, not a whole lot happened. This one wasn't quite as time-killing filler bullshit as last week's episode, but that isn't saying much. As I said last week, the show has slowed to a crawl during the slowest portion of the book. For all the liberties they've taken with the source material, abridging this portion of the story was one they could have been forgiven for. It would be a welcome change for a TV format, and there are more than enough formative events in the book for them to get to. But we instead get another episode like this, as the show's pacing borders on atrocious. Still no Battle of Tumbleton, which explains why the preview after last week's episode was for the remainder of the season and not this particular episode. So that's 2 weeks in a row this show has felt like it needed to mislead people about what's coming next to get them to come back. Now let's do our weekly stupid character check, shall we? Rhaenyra looks the fool once again. Her inaction, dumb decisions, and taking bad advice has lost her the Gold Cloaks. And after Mysaria has led her down a bad path, the White Worm now looks to be cozying up to Alicent and keeping secrets from Rhaenyra, so it was all for nothing for Rhaenyra. That's what happens when you trust a hooker. And it's almost comical how these characters in a female-driven show have turned out. They set out to tell a story about female victimhood in the man's world of ice and fire, but they end up with women being indecisive, not handling their emotions, giving bad advice, keeping secrets, and backstabbing each other all on their own. So, what do you want us to take away from these characters? And this week it was Helena's turn to be a little stupid. She's always been a little touched in the head, but this week Alicent told her that they should escape. But Helaena wouldn't even entertain the idea of leaving her little Jaehaera behind. After turning down that offer, Alicent tries to make nice with Miss Arya, and it looks like she and Helaena will probably be on better terms with her, possibly buying them more freedom or leniency or opportunities within their captivity. Then, for no reason at all, Helaena takes the next secret passageway they find, without her daughter Jaehaera.
This doesn't make any sense!
And you might say, maybe they were just intending to scout out the passage, but if that were the case, then why didn't they bother to prop the door they left through open? No, they intended to leave, and now they're stuck within the castle walls, and their characters are apparently stupid enough to put them in this position where they ought to die. The only thing stupider than those characters ending up there will be the explanation for how they're found, I bet. And for our last stupid character of this episode, we have Criston Cole. I don't hate what they're doing with Cole in totality, but the little self-righteous speech he gave Gwayne in this episode doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Cole tells Gwayne that he's the realm's greatest warrior and he wants to die in battle with a clean conscience and not in service to anyone else. He's lived his life serving others, but now he wants to die free. And that's all well and good, except for the fact that he's still fighting and choosing to fight in a war on behalf of and in service to others. This isn't his war. He's not fighting for himself out there. Like, what he says there is a stupid, untrue statement, which is setting aside the fact that he's ironically leading how many other men to die in his service? That part I'll let slide, because it can be in keeping with Cole's characterization in this show, that he's a hypocritical, oath-breaking dude who never saw the bigger picture and couldn't see beyond the tip of his dick. But the earlier statement is just stupid from any angle. I really feel like the writers for this show sometimes come up with quotes and speeches in a vacuum, and then try and work them into the script, even if they don't really fit. Now we have a bonus round of stupidity, as we can talk about some retroactive stupidity with Tywin Lannister. So he was thrown overboard in full plate armor. How is he alive? No explanation? Great. Thanks. And the same goes for Corlys after episode 1. This heavy armor does not allow for the washing ashore miracle. It just doesn't. So either the writers are stupid, or now we have two ghosts in the show. And speaking of the writers, and the showrunner, and the director, and everyone involved and their problems, this episode gave us the 4th assault on women scene in 5 episodes. Please seek help. This is getting concerning. This appears to be the only surefire way these creators have to portray female victimhood, and it's disturbing at this point how many times they keep going back to this well. Now, along with some of the Criston Cole stuff, I didn't hate that Aemond got a little more screen time and a little more characterization. The show is in desperate need of a villain, with Cole actively trying to get himself killed, always great in a villain, and Aemond busy with his transition surgery or whatever he's doing. So they desperately needed a serious villain, and in stepped Aemond. We did get much less of him in this episode, however. And I still suspect he'll go out with a whimper based on how much emphasis the show put on him being sensitive to smells. And in King's Landing, there's a little bit of intrigue surrounding the murders of the Gold Cloaks and who's doing them. And I say a little bit because I don't think it's much of a mystery. It seems to be Aemond's doing, along with the help of the aggrieved, rich lords and ladies of King's Landing, considering the reference to a feast in the final scene, after Rhaenyra alienated them and offered them a feast of rats. And some seem to believe that the faceless men are involved, and they might be, but honestly, I don't think this subplot will be expanded upon enough to warrant much speculation on it. So there were a few things in this episode that weren't as bad as the others. Now let's get to the book. Every week at the end of the video, I like to talk about what changes were made from the book's version of the events of this episode, which is getting increasingly difficult because this stretch of the book doesn't shine much light on what the characters were doing in their day-to-day within their castles, and that's all this show seems to want to cover. In other words, this show is pretty much on its own for much of the material. Anyway, I'll talk about what parallel continuity I can, but first, here's a spoiler warning for Fire and Blood. Let's start with the Kingmaker, Sir Criston Cole. Beyond just taking a step back from that Kingmaker persona of his, the show also has him on a totally different personal mission than in the book. In Fire and Blood, Cole is not out there attacking without abandon, seeking a noble death, and knowing that he is going to die. Instead, it's the Rivermen and the Starks that are the ones employing guerrilla tactics. And I won't spoil what happens with Cole's campaign because the show isn't there yet, but no, he's not trying to die a glorious death, and they're still persecuting the war to the best of their abilities. And it was in this theater of war where the book had a grotesque mockery of a feast with corpses. Only it was the rivermen who used the bodies of greens killed at the fish feed to greet Cole's southerly march with the horrific display. So the show took the work of Team Black in the book and gave it to Team Green and their conspirators in the killing of Largent and his gold cloaks. Now, Tywin Lannister isn't lost at sea for any stretch of the book. After squirreling away most of the crown's gold, he's taken prisoner when Rhaenyra takes the city. While prisoner, he was blinded and had his nuts cut off. He was later released and has a part to play in events beyond the scope of what I think this show intends to cover. But clearly he wasn't running around scheming at this point in time, so whatever the show does with him will likely be their own creation. There are no accounts of Helaena and Alicent trying to escape that I can remember, at least nothing major. Just like last week, Helena's not pregnant. The White Worm and Alicent never did any scheming as far as I can remember. And Aemond is out burning down castles, not cuddling with Alice Rivers during his period. Anyway, if this show starts to give us episodes where more things happen, this segment will run longer, and it will be more interesting, but that about covers it for now. What did you think about this episode? Was it hard to stomach a third consecutive episode like this? Why do you think the creators love seeing men attack women? Let me know in the comments. And remember to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to HateWatchers to stay up to date on House of the Dragon. Thank you for hitting this lady with the double tap with me today, and I'll catch you on the next one.